Sustainable agriculture has gained grounds in the Northwest Province. The province contributes the country's exports, with commodities heading to countries like China, AU and some parts of the world. Other African nations like Botswana believe that African countries are contributing to each other's lack of development and economic growth by opting to trade with American and European countries instead of supporting local economies. Botswana's Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Phenyo Butale registered these concerns, emphasizing the need for African nations to strengthen regional trade ties and reduce dependence on external markets.
When we look at economic diplomacy and seek ways of ensuring that we lure foreign direct investment, we should be asking ourselves, how do we ensure that intra-Africa trade becomes a reality? How do we ensure that African countries trade amongst themselves? You look at the situation where Botswana, I know this one is a controversial one, but I know Lonamo Northwest we have the best beef in the world, right? Yes. So we have the best beef in the world. We export it to the EU market. Guess what? Our neighbors, Angola and DRC, they buy their beef from Brazil. Does that make sense? It doesn't.
Agri-economist Wandile Sihlobo says while these concerns are valid, poor and insufficient productivity in some African nations contribute towards low intercontinental trade.
It is understandable that some may feel a bit pessimistic about Africa's intra-agricultural trade, because as the continent, we spend roughly $80 billion a year importing agricultural products from the world market. When you look at the composition of the product that the continent imports from the world, it's largely grains and the oil seeds and vegetable oils that you see at the top of that particular list. There are a number of problems that lead us to be in that position. One of them is the fact that Africa's agriculture suffers from a challenge of low productivity. We need to invest more in technology to boost yields and also to strengthen property rights so that there could be investment in the sector across the entire continent.
Sihlobo says this makes South Africa an exception, with a shift expected on red meat intercontinental trade.
The African continent is an important market because it accounts for about 44% of South Africa's agricultural exports. So South Africa is gaining from the continent, but the continent suffers from this low productivity agricultural part. So the intra-Africa trade remains low because of that. In terms of the product composition that South Africa exports to the continent, it's primarily grains, it's wine, it's fruit, apples, and in the main. And of course, there are some ciders and beverages that also are exported. We are beginning now to see that even red meat exports may go to the African continent, especially North Africa region. So ultimately, South Africa is an exception.
Botswana has recently lifted a ban on vegetable imports from South Africa. These restrictions were aimed at improving Botswana's domestic production. However, this highlighted the country's much-needed higher productivity. Phase 2 of the ban is expected to be lifted next month. Tebogo Pakedi, SABC News, Mahikeng.